into it. For those of you who don't know, the DR and Dr. Meisner's title comes from being an organizational strategic doctrine. So it's not a touchy-feely thing. It's a real data-driven, and almost everything he does is backed up by fairly expensive studies that really prove out the data, and he extracts that down to a simple equation that seems oversimplified, but I want you guys to know, if you embrace it, if you follow it, it's not an idea that he put out. It's a system that he's proving, right, that already exists. So 3 + 1 = member success. This is directly for members as a formula to transform your chapters. So the first thing is embrace quality. And what I want to talk about here is not a simple thing, right? Because what is best about BNI is that we make great friends. And what is worst about BNI is that it's hard to hold friends accountable, right? So what I want to propose to you today is that the very best way that we can build quality into our chapters is being persnickety and careful and full of research when we're adding members into our chapter. That's the easiest way. We can part friends a lot easier that way than we can any other way we can get rid of them later, right? Okay, so I'm going to read you a little bit of this because he says it better than I do. Quality is first on this list for a reason. The process begins by being very selective about who you bring into a chapter. You want quality business professionals that are near the top of their game, who have a positive and supportive attitude. You also want people who are good at what they do. You want to build diversity. If everyone looks like you, you will not have as many connections. So embrace diversity. You also want people, effective networking is also dependent on the quality of the relationships that you actually develop. So bringing good people in is important, but then developing your relationship in a deep way with them is vital. So doing your dance cards. If your network is a mile wide and only an inch deep, you won't be getting the referrals that you expect. So size isn't everything, right? Therefore, it's important to build deep relationships with your referral partners if you want to generate more referrals. In order to ensure quality participation, there has to be accountability in a group. One of the strengths of a good network is that many of the members are friends. Also the weakness that, ironically, friends have a hard time holding each other accountable. If you expect the best from your members, and this is something that we all struggle with, because the more familiar you get, the harder it is to not just commiserate the bad things or the funny things that are negative. I struggle with this constantly. When I get real familiar with someone, that's all I want to do is share how funny this preposterous phone call was, right? Because it's fun. But if we expect the best from our members, you'll get it. If you expect less than the best from your members, they'll follow you. So as leadership, please don't accept mediocrity when excellence is a real option. Accountability in a group will help you achieve excellence. Each 6 months, as much as many of us love coming to training, is our opportunity to be born in a new direction. So please, as you go through today, write down things that sound like something that could be new for your chapter, and challenge your leadership to want more. Number 2, grow your team. We've looked at the data. I actually moved those slides up because they're so powerful that I didn't want them to get lost in this overview. Really, there is no better way for us to achieve higher return on investment than to build with quality and to build larger chapters. That's the single best thing that we could do. So years ago, I'll go ahead and skip that because we went through that chart. This is one important thing to say here. Sometimes Dr. Meisner has asked the question, when is a chapter too large? And that's a difficult thing for him to answer. But he will tell you, being a statistician, that less than a fraction of 1% of all of the chapters have ever gone and sustained over 80 members. But by the way, 80 members would have 6,400 connections. If you want to attempt the math, you can. So he would argue that somewhere around 80 is likely to be near the ceiling for being able to have a productive chapter. I'll tell you guys that there's a chapter in July that had 700 people at their visitor day. 700 visitors at their visitor's day. And it has been a very big challenge for them to manage having an hour-and-a-half meeting. They were very selective, but because they had that many visitors, and they have the cream of the crop. So the bottom line is that the more connections you have, based on what? Quality relationships. Based on the more referrals you can generate. For decades, Dr. Meisner has seen groups that are twice the size of other groups in an area able to generate several times more referrals than their smaller counterparts. Number 3, seek engagement. This builds on what we've been talking about. You want quality, but you also want depth. So, engagement involves a promise and an action. In order to achieve success in a group, the members must promise to support one another and take the actions necessary to fulfill that promise. As many of you as have pens, I'd like you to write that sentence. Engagement involves a promise and an action. In order to achieve success in a group, members must promise to support one another and to take the actions necessary to fulfill that promise. If you happen to be in a chapter that has a clique and you just don't care that people that don't fit in that clique keep leaving, you guys are sending serious money out the door. What we need to do is we need to accept that people are different. Dr. Meisner says, and it is so true, that if we can find a way to see what each of us has to offer, we will always be better off. So fight the urge to have cliques. Allow other people to serve. There are many ways that members can get engaged in a group. The single biggest way is to do your one-to-ones faithfully and to have meaningful one-to-ones. In several of our breakouts, we're going to talk about the difference between meeting for lunch or coffee and having a one-to-one. Because for a lot of us, sometimes myself included, having lunch or coffee and just shooting the breeze seems like a great way to reconnect, and it is. But if we actually do our profiles, send them to each other ahead of time, we can accomplish more than that in the same amount of time with the same amount of fun. And so we're gonna really encourage you guys to go back to the pieces on that. Lastly, you and your members really need good introductions every week. The best introductions are ones that focus on breaking your business down to laser-specific elements of your business, and then sharp shoot your 60 seconds instead of shotgun. Huge way to seek engagement. If you tell someone that you want anybody who needs their taxes done, because you really do, you want as many tax returns as you can get, you probably aren't going to generate a memory in somebody's mind while they're driving down the road. But if instead you are very specific about the referral that you are looking for and draw a picture and are one of the 30 people going around, but your picture is the one they remember, wow, you're going to be able to achieve more. And I tell this story often, and he's no longer in BNI, but there was a guy that had a mobile oil change company, and he just floored me. Before he became a member, he came into my office and he asked me, I've got one shot at this. My wife thinks everything I do for marketing is making somebody else rich and not doing anything for us. And I fall for every everything. So I don't know what to do. I want to join. It looks like this one's really a good thing to do. But if I